You want to live. I want to live. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. But first, hit that like button and subscribe. I'm talking about life today. The quality of life. The value of life. Do you know we've had quite an increase in sudden deaths in the last year or two? I wonder what that might be from. Actually, the insurance companies are really in a spot. I think they've figured a 40% increase in deaths, which they didn't plan for before we had this last couple of years of purported crisis, where everyone was made to stay in their homes and some people were mandated to inject things in their body that they didn't want to, but for fear of losing their jobs, they had to. What I would tell you to do, and what I've learned to do from my 62 years of life experience, is to observe and be aware of what is going on around you. When all this was going on at its height, the way the media expressed it and portrayed it, you would have thought that every time I went to town, I would have seen people, at least 5 or 6 of them, laying on the street, bleeding out their mouth, dying horrible deaths. But I never saw that. Actually, personally, I cannot verify that anybody died from this thing that was going around, or at least they said was going around. I did meet and talk to a couple people that were told that they had had it, and they were working, and one of them was wearing a mask for other people. But he said he felt fine. He said his wife had gotten it also. It was a little harder on her. She wasn't in quite as good as physical condition as he was. So it was really strange to me that this was such a massive world phenomena, I'll call it, where it affected everyone in the world. But it wasn't what I saw or what I observed that affected everyone, at least as far as health goes and people. What I observed was the media and the narrative changing as things went on. The first I heard was that if we took this supposed cure, that we would be safe and also keep other people safe, that it wouldn't be able to be transmitted. And then that changed. That's not the case today. I've talked to several people personally that have taken the cure and the 2 or 3, how would I say it, extra things they give you to make the first cure stronger, and they have gotten sick with whatever the dreaded thing was that was going around that caused the world to shut down. And also, statistics are showing that many people are dying suddenly from heart problems and other different various things that have taken the cure. So I'm just observing what I'm seeing, what I'm aware of, not what I'm told by the media, not what I'm told by mainline news or the government, because their narrative has changed as this thing has progressed. So who do we believe? I say we believe what we see, what we observe. Even if someone that I knew personally, and I did know someone personally who I was told passed away from this dreaded thing. He was in extremely bad shape. He was in a nursing home. He was younger than me, but his lungs were in really bad shape because he had partied a lot and he ruined his lungs doing drugs. I asked him about it. He told me. We spoke about it. So for him, it was a death sentence. But for this young man, he was younger than me, any kind of, how would I say, illness would have been a death sentence for him more than likely. And the other person I knew was 97 years old. So that's the people I knew. And the one person, the 97-year-old, I didn't know personally. I knew her son personally, my best friend. And he wasn't even allowed to go see her. As we know, many people weren't allowed to see their loved ones because this thing was supposedly so terrible. And they had something that came out a year later, as I said, was going to cure everyone and stop the transmission of it. But that has all changed also. So I guess what I'm telling you is, don't believe everything you see and hear on the news. Don't believe everything your politicians and the government tells you. Don't believe anything I tell you. Look for yourself. Look around you. And even the people that maybe you were told someone passed away from this, how healthy was that person? Did they have other things that contributed to their death? Regardless, it's a sad thing when we lose people we love. I lost my father and mother in the last 10 or 12 years. My father had several strokes. Was that what he died from? I suppose. But those strokes were brought on by a medication that he took for several years. It was notorious for giving strokes. I think they pulled it off the market. A pharmaceutical medication that was meant to help him. Each year, hundreds of thousands of people die from the medications that are prescribed to them to help them. And many people have a prolonged life because of the medications they take. No medications are completely without side effects or are safe. But we were told that this cure that they gave us the last year or two was completely safe and effective. But now that has changed. The effective and that it stops the problem, that is not true. They're still trying to say that it's safe, but yet the data doesn't say that. But yet it's being ignored by mainline news, mainline media, and by the government. They're still pushing the narrative, even though it doesn't do what they said it would do. As a matter of fact, it may be doing more harm than good. I don't know, I'm not saying that, I'm saying it's possible. So what I'm asking you, my subscribers and my followers, to do is think for yourself. Think for yourself. Another option is this: eat healthy, start exercising, meditation, take care of your body, physically, mentally, and spiritually. As far as I know, I have not contracted this supposed deadly thing that was going around, nor did my 6 children. We had the normal sniffles and different things like that through the years. I didn't go and get checked because I'm like, what's the point? Supposedly there was nothing they could do about it, and I wasn't around anyone that I may give it to, so just something to think about. Quit allowing the news media and the government to fill your head with fears, which was done for the last 2 or 3 years. They promulgated fear. They pushed fear. Fear-mongering is what I would call it. Intimidation, mandating people to do things they didn't want to do, but had to do to keep their jobs. And now some of them are suffering the consequences of something that they were forced to do. And for all you people who did decide to comply with the mandates and decided to go ahead and do what the government suggested or strongly encouraged you to do, that's fine. I just hope you haven't had any adverse effects from that, and maybe you won't. Not everybody who took the cure is having adverse effects. But the power of the mind is very strong. If you did take it, don't allow the fear to convince you that maybe something will happen to you. Because not everybody that took the cure is having problems, but many people are. So in the future, let's use this as an example to not be so ready to believe someone who says they have the cure for our fear. Because that's basically what they had the cure for, was our fear. And now as time passes, we're seeing that there was more for fear than it was actually for what was going on. People were desperate for something to stop their fear. There's an old Chinese proverb. It goes like this. It's strange that it's from China, right? One day, the plague came to town. And it tried to get into the city, but the gatekeeper would not open the gates. and the plague couldn't climb over the walls. And the plague said to the gatekeeper, "Please, gatekeeper, let me in." And the gatekeeper says, "Plague, I know what you're going to do. You're going to come in here and you're going to decimate my city. There will be no one left when you're finished." And the plague said, "Oh, I'm not going to do that. I tell you what I'll do. I promise you, if you let me in, I will only eliminate 5,000 people." The gatekeeper thought for a while. Well, there's 100,000 people here. That's not very many. And if he finds a way to get in, he may eliminate more than that. So the gatekeeper decides it's best to let him in. So the gatekeeper lets the plague in. And 4 or 5 days later, the plague comes back and asks the gatekeeper, "Please let me out, Mr. Gatekeeper." And the gatekeeper says, "You lied to me. You said you were only going to eliminate 5,000 people, and 50,000 people have been eliminated." And the plague slyly smiled and said, "I kept my word. I only eliminated 5,000 people. The other 45,000 died from fear of me." So think about that. Fear. Fear ought to be classed with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. Fear, if there's a devil, it ought to be doubt and fear. Never, ever make a decision based on fear. Unless you're on the Empire State Building and you look over and you think you're a little too close to the edge, so you become afraid. Then take a few steps back. But understand that any decision based on fear that wants you to take an action to eliminate the fear is usually not a good decision. You have to allow the fear to subside. Think rationally. Evaluate the situation. God gave us a brain to use. Evaluate the situation and the information you have at hand, and then make your decision. Well, that's all I have time for today. If you'd like to get my help personally, I do consultations. I will take my 62 years of experience and help you to see the answer to the problems you're experiencing today. You have the answers within you. All I do is try to take my experience and mold that to what you're going through, so you can see that I can reflect back to you what you need to do, because you have the answers. Sometimes we just need someone to listen to us, to reflect something back to us, and then we know what to do. Actually, you're always just looking for confirmation, because inside, like I said, you know what to do. Okay, that's it. Have a great day, and remember, don't make decisions based on fear. Make them on faith. Take care.